All right, at 7 o'clock, I'll call the meeting to order. Please rise for the pledge. I pledge allegiance
To the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
All right, just make a note that Councilman Kirby is absent tonight. Old business, approval of minutes. The regular meeting minutes of September 19, 2024 were provided for review, so I need a motion to approve the regular meeting minutes of September 19, 2024 as presented.
So moved.
Second. I have a motion and a second. Call
Mr. Gardner,
Yes.
Mr. Kowalewski,
Yes.
Mr. Garvey,
Yes.
Mr. Robinson,
Yes.
Mr. Clemens,
Yes.
Mr. Brungard,
Yes.
Mr. Stednica,
Yes.
motion passed. Audience participation. Is there anyone in the audience who would like to address the council on an item that is not on the agenda? No takers. Presentations. Item number 2 is life-saving award. Police Chief Raymond will present a life-saving award to Officer Jory Bell and Kim Bloss. Let me get that right. Boleski. Is that right? All right. Not bad.
Mayor, Council, this evening, I've got 2 individuals that we want to give a presentation to for life-saving award. Kim Boleski, you can come forward, and Officer Jory Bell, if you would also come forward. On September 6th, we received a 911 call for an individual that had fallen into the ditch while he was mowing his yard. Officer Bell responded to the scene. There was reported on in round, it was reported that the subject had gone unconscious. Upon her arrival, she was able to retrieve her AED at her police vehicle and began CPR on the individual. He got the AED. He began giving life-saving measures. During that time, Ms. Boleski, who lives in that area, came by, saw what was going on, stopped, got out, and assisted Officer Bell with CPR. And anybody that's done CPR for any amount of time, it don't take a lot of time for you to start getting really wore out really quick by doing it. So they both, jumped in, helped this gentleman out. He's a resident in that area. I believe he's 85 years old. In their efforts, during their efforts, Fire District 1 EMS arrived on scene, transported him to the hospital. I'm happy to say that now he's back at home. Was up in that area. They've seen him walking with his brother in the area and stuff. So he is mobile. So with the actions that were done, I definitely feel that they saved this gentleman's life. They gave him a chance from talking to Councilmember Kirby about him. One of the things that he had happened, he did have a rib that was cracked and had a little discomfort over that, but he understands why and had no problem with that. So, but the quick actions, the dedication, stop to helping Brenner Nate save someone's life, and that's what we're here tonight, is to sit there, show our appreciation, give our certification or our certificate saying that job well done for individuals that went. So Ms. Pulaski, I'd like to present you with the certificate of appreciation from the City of Lansing and Lansing Police Department for your actions on that day. And Officer Bell, a life-saving combination with a pen. Okay. If either one of absolutely. Would you all like to say anything?
Good job. You're excellent job.
Much. Thank you. New business. Thank you. New business item number 3 is community satisfaction survey. Rachel Snyder and Dave Santee. from True North Market Insights will be present to brief the council on the results of the community survey. So I think they're both here. The floor is yours.
Well, thank you guys so much, first of all, for allowing us to come and do this residential satisfaction survey. It's our great pleasure to be able to come in and do that and get you guys some resident feedback. So I'm excited to go over this with you today and the results, just kind of high level findings for you. So first, before we dive into the more detailed findings, I wanted to start with the framework we had going into this study. So as you can see, there's different levels of the brand, Lansing brand, that we identified that we used as a framework when we were designing the survey. So we wanted to make sure that we captured an understanding of how residents felt about the city's reputation as a whole, how they felt about city services being provided, those functional benefits, as well as how city management's doing, how well they're expressing their caring, their expertise and advocacy, their trust for city management. So those are all things we tested. In addition to these core benefits that we have that you see central right there. And these are the benefits that Lansing residents are really feeling safety, quality of life, proud of living here. And those are the benefits that they feel from these services that are being provided by Lansing. So I just wanted to kind of share that framework before we get into the results. Additionally, throughout the presentation, you'll see references to national benchmarks. These benchmarks are referencing the Lansing survey we actually just sent out last week nationally. We just rebranded it. So we said your city. So they were rating their own city, their own community they were living in. So we could have some national comparisons for you guys for these results. So overall, our satisfaction is about 7 and 10. So we have 71% satisfaction, which is really right in line with national averages of about 75%. So we're really in line there with that. We see consistency as well. And the net promoter score with the national average being -13, we're above that by about 7 percentage points at -6. Still, there's some improvement that needs to be done there. Overall, even nationally, you can see, because essentially how you get the NPS scores, you do promoters, that's 27%. So those who rated their likelihood to recommend Lansing as a 9 or a 10 on an 11-point scale. And then we have the detractors who rated their likelihood to recommend as a 0 to 6. So they're less likely to recommend Lansing. And so we see we have slightly more detractors than promoters, but still close to the online. The goal really would be there to get to at least as many amount of promoters as we have detractors. But we're right in line with national averages and even slightly above national averages.
Before you go on,
Yes, sir.
your national averages data, where do you get that from other surveys that you've done, or is there a website that you get it from?
So we took the Lansing survey that we designed for you guys, the same exact survey instrument, and we debranded it. So we took Lansing's name off of it and we asked them to rate their own community satisfaction. Overall, how satisfied are you with your city? And so we went out nationally and got sample from a panel company from different states and cities all across the nation to get these numbers. And these are updated as of the last 2 weeks. So we like to do that to make sure our benchmarking data is right in line at the same time. And there's, because we have seen seasonality differences and things before. So these are the most updated benchmarks we can give you.
Okay, on the scale, you've got an 11-point scale there.
Yeah.
Why isn't it, it's a 7, 2, and 2. Why isn't it broken up more evenly?
So how NPS works is if you're a 9 or 10, so the scale's from 0 to 10, and how NPS works, and this is something that's been around for how long would you say, Dave?
20 years.
A good 20 years. And so it's been proven actually more predictive of satisfaction, more predictive of how residents actually feel and are going to behave in satisfaction alone. That's why we added NPS to it. So essentially we have this promoters, those are going to be the people that are saying, hey, I love Lansing. Come live here with me, be my neighbor. And these people over here, the detractors, they're not going to be likely to recommend Lansing. They're going to say, this is the place I live. You know, they may not say that they should come live here. And so when you subtract the amount of detractors from the promoters, you get the NPS score, which can range all the way from to -100 if you just completely had full detractors, to 100, which is every single person, 10 out of 10 was saying, I'm going to promote your community. And so nationally, that's where we get this number, the -13 there, and we can see we're actually above national numbers. This is another thing I wanted to walk through before getting into the deeper data. This is an analytical score. Basically what we did here is we took all the city departments and we correlated them with the recommendation score that you just saw, which is going to be more predictive of really the overall quality of life, what is driving that quality of life for the resident. And so we found that the Parks and Recreation system as a whole and city communications with residents were the top 2 drivers of overall community satisfaction. So these are the 2 things that most affect your resident satisfaction with your community is the park system and communications. So we looked at performance expectations and we did it on a scale of exceeds, meets, or below, or we also added don't know in case people didn't feel like they had enough information to read it. We compared this to national averages as well. And these numbers, the comparison numbers are exceed expectations, because really that's the goal. We want to exceed our resident expectations. And as you can see with maintenance of city streets, we're doing exceptional. We're 12 percentage points above the national average and exceeding expectations. So that's really good. And you can see we're right in line with all of our other exceed expectations. There's nothing statistically significant. We do see some directional differences with police services having higher exceeded expectation than the national averages. So those are good things. And to explain this map a little bit, this is our action map, and we plotted those drivers of service satisfaction analytically, those ones we model, with the overall resident perception of that city service to understand better what are the priorities, are there areas of opportunities, and what does that look like? And as you can see, communication with residents, and as we just saw before, was this is the second driver, community satisfaction, is doing very well. It's one of your guys' greatest strengths is the city communications. That is a very good strength. And so it's really important to continue to leverage those communications and utilize them where you can, even within the other service departments. You can see Parks and Rec is just below here in the area of opportunity. And so we'll get into a deep dive a little bit of what that looks like here in a minute with each of the departments. Yes, sir.
You've got 9 maps laid out, and
Yes.
the last 7 all have the same X and Y parameters,
Yep.
but the first 2 do not. Now, and what governs those box change, those quadrant changes? Is it the X line or the Y line? Because of the boxes change size.
So this should be, if, and I might be incorrect, Dave will have to correct me, but the rest of the boxes should be the same accent, and I'll have to double check those if they aren't, they should be, because we want to make sure we're using the same comparison throughout. So I'll double check on those.
The only reason it might not is that sometimes I think on that, I think the next map you're going to show the performance was an agree disagree scale versus an expectation scale. So it depends on what scale we use to create to evaluate our performance. But when it's the exact same scale, those scales on that grid should be exactly the same. That's very absurd.
The numbers and the percentages you're talking about.
The scale from here to here,
Yep.
and here to here will always be the same when we use the exact same scale. I think on one of the maps, I think we'll see next, this is different because we use a different question. This is based on expectations, and the next chart, I think, is based on agree, disagree, so the scale is different.
Yeah, the last time I looked at it, all like that. First two were different from each
Right.
other and
That's
the
observant.
other seven.
I will say, most people don't pick that up.
No, it's good. I really
That's very
appreciate that attention to detail.
And the other one was what drives the change of the size of the quadrants? Is it the X line or the Y line?
We start out by making everything, the X and Y is the average across all the different dimensions. And so some attributes will fall this way, some attributes will fall that way from chart to chart, but the totality across all of them,
Both.
the grids define the average.
It's both. Yes. So you can see there's a little bit of opportunity with the Parks and Recreation system. And as we know that we just looked at it, that's also the largest driver. So that's a great opportunity for Lansing. And then you see maintenance of city streets is right there between a little bit less important or overall full strength as well as police services. So first, looking at overall Lansing's community reputation, as I was mentioning earlier, a lot of these ones in green here, the actual attributes in green, those are the 4 emotional benefits residents are feeling living in Lansing. And Lansing's doing an awesome job. You see most all of those core benefits, which we want to see up in the strength area. You see a little bit on the line, the feeling proud, the belonging. And then a couple of things just to pay attention to here is feeling connected, good cost of living, and lots of things to do. Those are kind of on the line. Something to pay attention to is they're starting to come up as an area of opportunity.
Now, that one, is that page 7?
Yeah, that's a
Okay.
bit larger.
That one, it has Lansing doing very well and all that stuff, but on page 3, I think it says Lansing in the middle of the road.
Yeah, Lansing and overall satisfaction and most of their scores are really right in line with national averages. So that's why we made that statement. It's kind of middle of the road satisfaction, right in line with what we're seeing nationally.
So the other one is compared to national averages, and this one is just Lansing.
This one's just Lansing, yes. And we can do some comparisons of that. We do have that data. So if you're interested in that, I'm happy to share more information with you guys.
I just want to know why one was different from the other.
Yeah.
One
Yeah.
said we're doing good, one said we're just average.
Well, overall average compared to national benchmarks and what we're seeing. And there's some areas where we're doing really good at, and there's no really huge, large weaknesses or disadvantages that we're seeing, but is some areas of opportunity.
Those metrics in the upper right could be higher. That's what would move your total score up.
Mm-hmm. So now we're going to do the deep dives into the different city departments. We're going to start with communications. Communications we're also seeing right in line with national averages. They exceed expectations 30%, communications at 27%. So a little more than 3 or 4 saying that meets or exceeds their expectations. When people are more involved in the communications, when they're getting the Friday e-blast, when they're remembering the variable message board out there, when they're visiting your Facebook pages, they're more likely to not only have higher exceeded expectations, but they're more likely to be satisfied with your community as well. So there's another thing to leverage with communications. This is the same chart, and as you can see that we discussed before, the drivers of community satisfaction against the resident perception. And we see we're doing really well in responsiveness to questions, the usefulness of the different social media sites. People are happy with that. The availability and access to city topics or issues. The only one we're really seeing that could be an area of opportunity is capturing public involvement in local decision making. But I'd say with this survey, you guys are already at a good head start with that. Okay, so now we're looking at Parks and Recreation. We see also really very close to national benchmarks and exceed expectations 18%, national benchmarks 21%. So nothing statistically different there. They're also right in line with the NPS score, which is the more predictive one anyways at 9 of 13. They're in line with that. There's room to improve. We want ideally this number to be less than that. Closer to the 20-something% would be a lot better. So there's room there, but in line with national averages.
When we're putting in a pool somewhere, once the pool's done, they'll change the expectation on this, you know.
Well, so the thing is, you have the taxes and people are feeling the burden of that or the perception of the burden of that, but yet they haven't felt the benefit yet. And so next year they'll feel that benefit. And there is some nice comments that we received back that people are looking forward to the pool and overall investing in parks and recreation as the largest driver of community satisfaction. Investing in the pool seems to be like it was a really good idea.
I'm when I looked at these, I got my pack and I looked at these, like, I was really disappointed with our net promoters. That really concerned me that 41% of people in Lansing would not recommend living in our communities. Am I reading that right?
So, are you looking at the overall net promoter score?
The one you just had up, yeah.
Oh, that's parks. So the parks,
So
the
that's
parks
Parks
net
and
promoter
Recreation.
score
Okay, all right, I'm
is,
sorry.
no, you're fine. We can look at it again. So, but keep in mind, this is the national average is -13. So not to say there's not room for improvement because there is, but keep in mind, you're right in line with national averages. And these national averages didn't just look at rural communities or communities less than 10,000. They also looked at larger Kansas City metropolitan areas who have a larger parks budget. So you're being compared to them as well. And I know, and I don't want to say any numbers or anything, but I know when looking at the data, and we're getting more benchmarks, by the way, over the next month, so I'm happy to share those with you with some of these with an NPS specifically, we're going to be getting more benchmarks for specifically rural communities that are 10,000, so we can break them out further. It's lower, and overall satisfaction is lower than the -13 overall. It's more like -20 something. So even though it's kind of, it's a negative score, it doesn't seem like it's a positive thing. You're in line with national benchmarks. You're making good decisions by investing in parks and recreation for the community. So specifically looking at programs, and so we're seeing parks and equipment doing really well. We're seeing availability of information about the programs is doing good. There's some opportunities here for ease of registration for programs. There's a little bit of a opportunity there. Types of youth programs and availability of programs for seniors and adults. And by the way, this availability for adult programming is going to come back around. We also see that when we look at the library. So something to pay attention to. Okay, police services. Around 8 and 10, so about 80% are saying their expectations are met or exceeded with the police department. I know looking behind the scenes of the data, there's high trust in the police department, which is excellent to see. And they're higher, they're exceeding expectations higher by 4%. 1 more percent, and it would have been statistically significantly higher. So they're doing a good job. So on the action map here, it's clear professionalism of police officers doing a very good job there. Treatment of people by police in the community. These are strengths of the Lansing Police Department. There's a few areas maybe just to pay attention to. The frequency that police patrol neighborhoods. People want to see a little bit more of that. Efforts to prevent crime, how quickly they respond. And we made a little note here that this could also tie into ways the communication department can work with the police department in communicating better ways to prevent crime or communicating some of these different things, just getting it out there to the public could be an area to help improve some of these here. Okay, so now we're looking at library services, again, right in line with national expectations, exceeds expectations 29, national numbers 30%, so right in line. We also have a positive promoter score here. So we have more people saying good things and saying, hey, come to the library, than we do people saying negative or just not caring, being passive about it. So the highest percent here is promoter. That's what we want to see. And there's a positive promoter score. The national average is 7, so they're slightly below that, but they're still doing pretty good. We want to see positive promoter scores. So as I mentioned earlier, that adult services, we're going to come back around. Here it is. There just seems to be this need for adults and senior services that some of the residents are expressing. They just want more options, I think, for adult services, more availability for senior services. Trash yard solid waste, again, very close to national averages. Lansing exceeding expectation 24%, national average 21%. And we don't have very many saying below expectations, so that's good. No apparent weaknesses. People like their trash picked up.
It's surprising, people always complain about it.
I know, well, you hear the loudest complaints, right? Yep.
Right, Beth?
Just show them this map. And the price isn't too bad either. It's a less important weakness. It's not something somebody's still going to pay for these services. They're not as worried about the price. It's less important as actually getting their trash service and yard service. Transportation. So we're actually a little bit above on exceed expectation transportations directionally by 3%. We have 10% exceed expectations, 7% is the national average. There is a little bit more than we'd like to see in below expectations, 26%. But if you remember in one of the charts, the drivers I showed earlier, transportation services are actually one of the lowest drivers for overall city satisfaction. So it's not as much of a concern right now. Also, there's no inherent weaknesses. As you can see, a lot of these, well, they're less important weaknesses, which makes sense with transportation being one of the lowest drivers of overall city satisfaction. Street maintenance, this is the one where we did statistically significantly above average on exceed expectations, 21% versus 9%. National average. So street action map, we just have a couple things kind of right here on the line to pay attention to, but nothing really sticking out. The timeliness of repairs, city's landscaping efforts is right there on the line, and then just continuing keeping up with the maintenance of curbs and gutters. But otherwise, the condition of the neighborhood streets, the condition of major city street, the cleanliness of all the public areas, people are happy with. They see it as a strength. So we asked this question about potential future development of Lansing. So how do you feel about the future development of Lansing? And they were giving these choices to stay as is, maintaining the character, to have some commercial industrial development as long as it stayed within the community character, moderate effort or significant effort. And there's a split here. So we're seeing for them, about half are saying to stay as is or some, and about half are saying moderate or significant. And if you looked at it, even these two, 56% together are saying they want some to moderate.
I look at that chart and I see 3 areas where people are concerned about the growth of development. The top one, people they want to leave things as is, and the bottom they don't care about. But if you take those 3 in the middle, whether it's some or moderate or significant, and add those 3 together, you have everybody, you have 78% of the people wanting
At least some change.
some moderate or significant. At some level, most of the 78% of the people do want growth. I was I didn't know why you separated the stay as is and some, and then separated or to put moderate significant together when all three of those are concerned with growth.
Yeah, that was just the way we separated out, but I completely understand what you're saying. 78% are saying
We
that
want
they want
growth.
not at least some.
Yeah.
Yeah, I agree. Mhm. So we just added some discussion questions. It's kind of for thought as you guys digest all of this information. So we put middle of the road satisfaction because we're right at the average. We're the average satisfaction, we're right in line with the national benchmarks. We should make sure we're focusing on the benefits, not just the functional services we're providing them. And it seems like from where I'm seeing Lansing's strengths and where they are that you guys are doing a good job of this. Also, city communications are doing really well as much as possible, leveraging those city communications throughout each of your other departments as well. We saw that those who are receiving the Friday e-blast was a huge one. It was almost shocking. Those who are receiving the Friday e-blast, there was over 2 times the amount were satisfied, overall higher satisfied with Lansing than those who were not. So it goes to show how important that Friday e-blast is. And only less than a third of people are recalled receiving it. So there's a huge opportunity to promote that e-blast among residents. So services for adults, we saw that come up in a couple areas, parks and recreation and the library. Around a third of Lansing residents are about 55 and older. So it's important to be intentional and just developing services specifically for that population as well and consider them when developing new programs. Parks and recreation, the highest driver of community satisfaction, they're right at the average, right in line with what national averages are. They're really key, the park and recreation system, to making a community a great place to be. And there's a lot of benefit to incorporating potentially adult programming into the new swimming pool. That could be a way to address that. Lessons, however you guys want to do it. There's just potentially an opportunity there. Also, the Lansing Library. That's another thing that I forgot to mention earlier, but there's around 54% of residents are using the library. And the more those residents who are actually using the library are also more likely to give the city overall higher scores. So getting your residents involved in parks, getting your residents out into the community, getting into the library, getting involved in communication is going to be a benefit to your overall quality of life, overall satisfaction scores. So I already touched on it a little bit, just getting people more engaged, even promoting local events around here, not necessarily that Lansing puts on, but just promoting that, gaining some of the equity even from that. Taxation. So I did want to say a brief thing because I know tax is always a huge thing. So I did want to say taxation. There's always this concern, what's appropriate? What's the appropriate level of taxation? How much of it is a burden to the resident? And when we looked at the driver's taxation was in the lower left corner, so a less important weakness. I will say when I looked at the national numbers, we are a little bit lower on the agreement scale with appropriate level of taxation than nationally and a little higher on the disagreement, but we're still, it's still a lower driver of overall satisfaction than these other areas. So the concern, it's just something to pay attention to because the residents are sensitive to it. And we want to be careful that it doesn't move too far over to the right.
But nobody's happy to pay taxes.
Nobody, and that's nationally, nobody.
And it's concerning that about a third say they disagree that the city offers good value for the tax revenue. I disagree with that. No, I think we do a great job of managing money. You don't need that.
Scores, it's just scores. We just accept.
Okay.
I mean, you could argue with them, but I mean, the scores are what they are.
Well, and nobody's
Curious as
happy
to
around.
the population, like I didn't see like how many people.
Oh, I'm
actually took
sorry,
the
I meant to, so we had 410 responses. And we sent the survey out through a postcard, so every single Lansing resident received a postcard. Also, the city did an amazing job of promoting the survey through the e-blast, through social media, and so we got quite a few responses that way as well. And then we also sent out an email campaign. So, we have basically about a plus or 5% margin of error on that.
The survey was all done by people online, is that correct? There weren't any hard copies sent to somebody who visited.
No, there was a couple people that had requested, I think, to call or take it differently, but that was it. We didn't have a large request for, I don't think anybody requested for mail. Did you have any requests for mail?
We may have had a couple of phone calls where our people would get on the computer and fill it out for them. But that was
good because I got phone calls from people, said, well, I don't have a cell phone and I don't use the internet, blah, blah, blah. So how can I take the survey? And I said, call the city, tell them your problem.
it was a very small.
Yeah, we did make it available online for somebody who called into the city that a resident could take it over the phone or have
Right,
to take
so I
it.
understand this one.
So I love data guy. So when I look at this, when you guys, because I'll go back to the net promoter score, like 33% would not recommend to others to live here, basically that's right. And that's very concerning to me.
That's the national average.
Yeah, let me pull it up.
Says
But
here,
yeah, the national, I think we're above the national average by 7%.
and I appreciate that. However, still, it's a third of people living in this community wouldn't recommend others to. So
Third of people respond.
Yeah,
The-
30, I mean, a
there-
third of the people, 400 out of 11,000 people in our city, which I was getting at by I asked, what is the statistical significance of 410?
Well, it's plus or minus
It'd be like
5%.
4%.
I'd love to, I can jump in.
Please.
Please.
Completely analytical sound. So sampling theory, we're getting sample theory, so I won't go too far into it, but if everyone has the same opinions, you only need to talk to one person, right? And so the more different opinions are, then you need a bigger sample. 400 is a good representative sample for the entire nation on some topics, certainly for a smaller community. So it's not about how many are people in the community versus the survey. It's about how different are the people that defines how you need to use a different sample. When we get the data back, though, we go through several checks. We make sure the data matches up demographically, by age, by income, by education, to make sure everything falls within all the normal kinds of demographics, so we can feel really, really good about the distribution.
And so we did weight the data to make sure it was completely in line.
I am not doubting your data at all. Please don't.
Oh, no, it's not. I'm
I
just
know.
letting you know part of our
And
problem.
I
I want
think
you guys to feel comfortable with that. No, this is
No,
good.
I do. I mean, very much, but
I understand your concern though. There should at least be,
so moving forward, will there be ideas of what we can do to improve that score?
And that's sort of what all these maps are. I know we sort of skimmed over because we don't have a lot of time. But
Sure.
if each of your groups get into those maps and you see areas in the bottom right, those are areas that are more important and they carry more weight towards moving your scores up.
Okay.
And so what's nice about it, if you look across all of them, the nice thing what shows up there are things that are probably much easier to execute than many things on the left, like more adult programs. And more communications. Those are a whole lot more easier to execute than building more ball fields, or more capital improvements. So that was the encouraging thing to see over here. There's a lot of probably low hanging fruit that we can do that can really help our communities. But that's the objective of those grids, the bottom right-hand corner, sort of zeroing in there and saying which of these things do we want to pick off. And picking those off, we are going to be more likely to move towards score setting.
As well as leaning into communications, your communications, leveraging your communications. That is a very big strength. So leveraging that even within parks, within the library, within the police, and getting people involved.
And that's a really good point. So remember, communications, how well your city communicates is more important for driving overall satisfaction than some of the services you're spending millions of dollars on. So doing well in communication, make sure people are understanding, make sure you're telling them all these cool things you're doing and all the services that are out there and how wonderful it is to live here. That can carry a lot of weight. Again, you can get, as far as bang for the buck, there's a ton of bang for the buck there versus, some of the things on the left that would take a lot of money. I don't know if that helps. And by the way, we're more than happy if for planning sessions or whatever to come in, dig in, spread out spreadsheets to walk through.
No, it's been I love this, so. And I'm really glad you explained, how you looked at the data. And that the data is correct. And that we don't look at that and just go, well, there was only 400 people that replied, so.
One more, just that driver analysis, one thing that's important to pay attention to is people will say, they'll probably never say communications, that's the most important thing for me in the city. But when we analytically look at it, when we do well on it, they're more likely to say we have a higher score. So we're looking at those correlations. So that's how we can say things like that are really important for you for improving it.
Okay.
I'll take top data geek anytime you want.
Yeah.
For you guys to look at.
What I got from reading all through this, the information on the left of the Lansing people have a good opinion of the different services and quality of life and everything here, but when we compare to the national averages, we don't look as good. Is that what I've got?
No, I think we're right in line with national averages.
Or above.
Or above in some cases. With street maintenance, we're above. We're significantly above by 12 points. With police, or 4 points above direction. With one more point, it would be statistically significant. So we're inching there basically. So you can see, I think we're above in some ways, and we're right in line or above. Right in line or above. Do you have any more questions?
So you'll have more data to share available, right?
We have a full detailed report, and this is the presentation for council.
Okay.
Full, much more in-depth report.
See the report they shared with Ken and I, it's like 80 something pages. But this is like 20. So we have a more thorough report we can share with you guys. We spoke a little bit about putting it on the site so you can see it.
So there's just a couple little things I'd like to do before sending it out broader on the website that I can send you tomorrow. But we're happy anytime anybody, feel free to email us questions or, I don't live too far. Come up to another one, we can chat with you. Thank you guys very much. Appreciate it.
Thank you.
Thank you very much. Nice job.
Number 4 is executive session. Personal matters of non-elected personnel. Need a motion to go into executive session for discussion of personal matters of non-elected personnel, non-elected personnel matter exception. KSA 75-4319B1 for 10 minutes. at 7:45. Next meeting at 7:55.
So moved.
Second.
I have a motion and a second. All
Mr. Gardner,
Yes. Yes.
Mr. Kowalski,
Yes.
Mr. Garvey,
Yes.
Mr. Robinson,
Yes.
Mr. Clemens,
Yes.
Mr. Brungard,
Yes.
Mr. Seven.
Yes.
You get the enemy or.
it need a motion
I'm
to return to open session.
Make motion to be returned to open session.
Second. Not a time. There was no binding action taken. Oh,
Mr. Gardner,
Yes.
Mr. Kowalski,
Yes.
Mr. Garvey,
Yes.
Mr. Robinson,
Yes.
Mr. Clemens,
Yes.
Mr. Brungard. Oh,
stop.
okay.
Yes, Gary.
Yes.
Mr. Sednica,
Yes.
Motion appears to have passed. Item number 5 is executive session economic development. Need motion to go into executive session for the preliminary discussion of economic development activities in accordance with KSA 75-4319B4 for 20 minutes, starting at 7:55. What time is it?
7:56.
7:56. Eight 16. Is that right?
Yes.
I need a motion. Anybody already said?
So moved.
I need a motion. Call a roll.
Mr. Gardner,
Yes.
Mr. Kowalski,
Yes.
Mr. Garvey,
Yes.
Mr. Robinson,
Yes.
Mr. Clemens,
Yes.
Mr. Brungard,
Yes.
Mr. Sednica.
Yes.
Make a motion to turn to open session.
Second.
I have a motion and a second to return to open session. No binding action was taken during the executive session. So please follow.
Mr. Gardner,
Yes.
Mr. Kowalski,
Yes.
Mr. Garvey,
Yes.
Mr. Robinson,
Yes.
Mr. Clemens,
Yes.
Mr. Brungard,
There you go. Home or something?
Yeah.
Mr. Sednica.
Yes.
We have returned to open session.
Yep.
Also need a motion to authorize the mayor to sign an agreement for legal services between the city of Lansing, Kansas and County of Thompson.
Second.
Motion and second. Call.
Mr. Gardner,
Yes.
Mr. Kowalski,
Yes.
Mr. Garvey,
Yes.
Mr. Robinson,
Yes.
Mr. Clemens,
Yes.
Mr. Brungard,
Yes.
Mr. Sednica.
Yes.
Motion passed. Reports. Anything from department heads? Okay, city attorney,
Another report.
Tim.
Progress on City Hall is coming along really well. So that's been nice. Finger and crossed that hopefully we have some sense of normalcy in November. But things are progressing slowly but surely. Question last time about insurance. We resubmitted that and tried to more focus on the plug on the drain side by the police department. That was also rejected by travelers. So we're kind of back to the drawing board, trying to figure out the best way to proceed on that. We did put out an RFP for insurance brokers. We're currently with the Riley Group out of Leavenworth. So hopefully we'll have proposals from other insurance brokers too. And again, the insurance broker is normally kind of the intermediary between the city and travelers. And so,
It'd be fair to say, Tim, that Riley is really bargaining hard for us.
yeah, he submitted an RFP. So, I mean, he's interested in keeping our business. He's done okay, but obviously it's been rejected both times it's been submitted. So
So he could fight hard.
Yeah, you know, it's been frustrating. It's been a really frustrating situation. So, yeah, but anyway, so we might reach out to you guys to see if there's any volunteers to review those proposals for our insurance broker services. Along the lines of, things that have kind of shifted a little bit with all of the water damage, copier services, we had some issues with the previous copier service. So we're looking at switching to maps. They're based out of Leavenworth, so right down the road. So we're looking at switching our copy machine provider. Thoughts on that? We're looking at doing that. So far, they've been responsive. They've been more helpful than our current copy. Wanted to review you guys on that. Finally, fire department negotiations have been continuing. In the last few weeks, I've probably emailed High Prairie's attorney 6 times. I'm not sure if he's not telling his client that we're communicating or what the deal is, because I've spoken to their attorney a lot, but High Prairie doesn't seem to know that. So that's been kind of frustrating. But you know, we're continuing negotiations. There's a lot of things that we agree on. There's a couple of things that maybe there are slight disagreements about. But that's been progressing. And also, again, we're hoping to have a proposal or a bid for a fire truck heading coming.
Good. All right, we'll go around Martin Cass.
Just thank Jory and Kim for the efforts. Same elderly gentleman.
Thanks. Chief,
Yeah, just echo Kevin's comments, and then one of the big takeaways from that survey was some of the work Ken's doing. I engage in Facebook posts as much as I can. Really appreciate that work you do, and I know everybody else does too.
all right. Yes.
Yeah, ditto. Congratulations, Officer Bell and Kim Lesky for bravery. That's the main thing. So we're brave enough to stand up and say that in a person's life. So congratulations to them. And thank you to all of our officers. You know, they all work very hard. And I was just happy to see the survey reflected very well on our police department and our communication and our library. So I think our city's doing things in the library. Yes. Oh, that's all. Yeah.
All right, thanks.
I don't know what the nomination process was for that, but I want to thank the chief for going forward with the nomination for Jory and Kim. They're a representative of our community. I would like to think that the rest of our community would have done the same, but again, I'd like to laud them for stepping out. Sometimes it can be uncomfortable to do something like that. They did it anyway. It's kind of the bravery. They were very great. And coming up on election season, I just request people really understand the issues and vote for the right guy that represents what they believe. That's all I have.
Yeah.
Yeah, echo what they said about the police officers, your whole department, Sean, during the presentation that we had to compliment you and to the. I don't have nothing else, Mayor.
All right. Carry.
Congratulations to our police officers. That's all I have.
All right, it's here, Don.
Well, ditto on all those positive comments. Without me repeating, with that, I move to adjourn.
Second.
Have a motion and a second to adjourn. Call.
Mr. Gardner,
Yes.
Mr. Kovaleski,
Yes.
Mr. Garvey,
Yes.
Mr. Robinson,
Yes.
Mr. Clemens,
Yes.
Mr. Brungard,
Yes.
Mr. Stednick.
Yes.
We are adjourned. Okay.